Welcome back to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for the penultimate event of the Britcar Endurance Championship. Coming up, highlights from the second race of the weekend. But first, here's Chris Hartley to remind us what happened last time out.
And the rolling start gets underway. Who's going to get into the first corner though at Corse? It's just about going to be the Wolf from pole position. Here comes Mike Millard now onto the tail of the Ferrari of Calum Lockie, going through Maggots and down into the Beckett's S's, and a switch there from the Ferrari and Calum Lockie. And there is the car running in third place. Getting a bit crossed up there though is Javier Morcillo. Mike Millard's got the run, they're both Class 1 cars, and he's got the line, and that's a good move. This car has been struggling a little bit, and it looks a bit slow going through Vale and into Club Corner. And it's lost drive, I think. The engine's still running, but the car grinding to a halt. Draws alongside, and he's determined to make his move at the first attempt on the way into Brooklands Corner. Through he goes. Once the pit stops sort themselves out, that, I reckon, is going to be up to third place now for Mike Millard.
So the engine's overheated. Hopefully it's not cooked, but it's way too hot now to race.
There is Pete Story in the Wolf, and he still leads, but not by very much. He's being reeled in by Martin Short in the Mosler. The Century Motorsport have the Class 3 Ginetta very much in command here. Calum Lockie looking like he's going to pick up more championship points. And it looks like we've had that change of lead, have we? Yep, the Mosler's in front now. Pete Story, though, is hanging onto the tail of the Mosler. Almost home and dry then, just a couple of corners to go for Martin Short to take the Royal Centre Racing Mosler to victory here at Silverstone. Just coming up to some slower cars and coming into left field for the final time. The car is slowing down. He's almost inside of the checkered flag. He's got about 150 metres to go. He's just been overtaken by the Wolf. So it's victory for James Fletcher and Pete Story. They were 7 seconds back with 1 corner to go, and they've ended up winning the race. Well, that is absolutely gutting for Martin Short and the team. At least he's going to crawl over the finish line. He will get second place, but after a 90-minute race, it looked like they got that one in the bag.
As ever, teams from the Sports and Touring Car Championship will be joining the grid for the second race of the weekend. Now, the cars might not have the same horsepower as the GTs, but with 4 different winners in 6 races, we've definitely seen some close racing. With one more event to come and the championship finally poised, they will definitely feel the pressure to perform in qualifying. Here's Chris to talk us through the key points of the session.
Hoping for a good day was Zest Race Car Engineering, one of the front runners in the Britcar Sports and Touring Championship.
Yeah, had a really good year, and hopefully continue this weekend. Silverstone, always a pleasure to come here, and I was pleasantly surprised with the GP circuit, which is just a privilege to drive on.
A new face in the paddock was ex-mini racer Jono Brown. As well as having to get to grips with the car, he was also trying to get his head around the new challenge of endurance racing.
There's some really quick, nice-looking cars about, and yeah, it's been a different experience, the endurance side of it, the pit stops and the refuelling, and obviously I've had to have a little practice getting in and out, which not looking that they do fine at the minute, but getting there.
Also contesting the Sports and Touring Car class this weekend was James McIntyre-Ewer, who's been a multiple race winner this year in the Britcar Trophy, a new support series launched by the organisers for 2014.
We've gone from the trophy, where I was winning overall, to just qualified 4th in class. So hopefully for the race we can make up a few places, but it's going to be difficult. Kind of 3 seconds behind some of the cars ahead, so there's a lot of work to do.
And the car ahead was the number 53 Seat of Peter and Mark Cunningham, the father and son team setting the 3rd fastest time in the Sports and Touring category to keep them in contention for the title. Second quickest was Lifetime Racing, the Ginetta driven by Caterham racing champions Amanda Black and Ian Anderson. Fond memories of Silverstone, they went here at the start of the season. Quickest in class by half a second were Mike Moss and Tom Howard in the Moss Motorsport BMW. Of all the teams in contention for this year's title, these 2 drivers have the best current form. Moving on to the main Britcar Endurance Championship categories, and in Class 3, Anna Walewska and Kevin Clark set the 2nd fastest time, 9th place overall for the Intersport BMW. Comfortably quicker though were Zoe Wenham and Steve Fressel in the Century Motorsport prepared Ginetta, their G55 setting the 6th fastest time overall. In contention for the overall endurance title, Guillaume Gruchet has been hindered by power steering issues in the first race of the weekend. In qualifying for race 2, the Newbridge Motorsport Porsche went 3rd quickest in Class 2. Amongst a whole rafter of new teams and drivers joining the grid this weekend were track-focused, with their gorgeous Ferrari 430 Challenge. Charlie Hollings and newcomer Peter Bedemar, second quickest in Class 2. But the outstanding performer in the class this year has been Calum Lockie in the FF Corse Ferrari 458, fastest and very much in contention for a fourth outright Britcar title. Lower down the order in class than they would have liked were Ian Stinton and Nathan Freak.
In qualifying, I'd gone out for a 3-lap run on some old tyres, and Nathan was going to use the new tyres. And on the first lap, all of a sudden I'm going down the straight and blue smoke appears. And I'm thinking, oh no, I've locked up. And I thought, I can't lock up, I'm going in a straight line. And then gradually the smoke got a little worse, and until my third lap, there was smoke coming in the cockpit. And a little hole had occurred in a pipe that supplies oil back from the engine. And it's a tiny little pipe, just like that. And very like pinhole was causing the smoke out. So it was a great luck it happened in qualifying, because if it happened in the race, we'd have been out. Amazing luck that I bought 2 cars on Friday with exactly the right fitting to fix the problem. So we're on a winner. I think I should do the lottery tonight.
Another car that's had some issues over the weekend is the Roxy Jewellers-backed Rapier of Mike Millard. His only win of the season came here at Silverstone, and from 4th on the grid, he'll still pose a threat. Sadly, Nilgarda Motorsport would be fielding the only Mosler in the race after Martin Short and the Roll Centre team had been forced to withdraw their car. Javier Morcillo and Manuel Centrano, though, went second in qualifying. Quickest by almost a second, though, were Race 1 winners James Fletcher and Pete Story. The Wolf on pole position for the race, but the team not taking anything for granted.
If you go in with confidence, 9 times out of 10, something usually happens, so you just take it as it is. But we're looking for another win, hopefully. I think the team in second place are only a couple of tenths behind us, but I think for the race, I think we've definitely got the legs. We don't have to fill up, and they do. So I think, yeah, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Here at Silverstone, a special guest for the day was 15-year-old Domani Meccano, an aspiring racing driver. He was third in the Right House Karting Championships on his debut in 2013.
Britcar's just amazing, watching the racing, and I love how much diversity there is in the cars. There's everything from sports and touring cars to full-on GT cars. Today I've been working a lot with Chris Hartley in the commentary box, also getting to speak to the drivers as well. Some of the drivers also let me sit in their cars. It's just so open. You just have a nice conversation with the drivers, sit in the cars that you've just been watching blasting on the track. I just love racing so much. My ultimate dream would be to be a professional driver in motorsport, but obviously funding it is quite hard, so that's one of the reasons why I contacted Britcar to get more media experience, so that when it's time to come for a sponsor to look for me, I'd have all the right qualities to represent their brand in the right way.
So the cars making their way around behind the safety car for the formation lap. Confirmation of the first 4 rows of the grid there on screen, with the Wolf of Fletcher and Story on pole position from the Mosler of Manuel Centrano and Javier Morcillo. OK, then, on the right-hand side of the screen, the pole-sitting car, the Wolf, it's Pete Story as he gets the race underway here on the charge into Copse corner. The Mosler is going to go with him. A bit of contact there with Mike Millard, and there's all sorts of smoke coming out of the Start Racing Ginetta. Now, we heard about this problem that they had in qualifying, and it looks like maybe that has not been fixed. So that's dropping down the order, and Calum Lockie dropping back a place behind Mike Millard. So that's second place there. Mike Millard getting through. And it means probably the Mosler's down to 4th position. So it's the Wolf that leads on the way through the S's at Beckett's for the first time. In second place, Mike Millard with a really good start up to 2nd place. But there, from 5th on the grid, the Start Racing Ginetta already stops and out of the race on the exit to the first corner. A replay on board with Nathan Freak. And I think already by this stage, lots of smoke was pouring out the back of the car. It's got a big issue. Nathan realises, and he pulls out of the way of everybody else and pulls off the circuit on the exit to Copse corner. And a sad way to round out the race. So one of the key contenders gone. At the head of the field, though, Pete Story leads. There is Mike Millard going with him in 2nd position. And the first of the Ferraris is Calum Lockie, who leads Class 2. So 2 Class 1 cars, 1st and 2nd. There have been some circuits this year where the Class 2 cars have been able to mix it with the more powerful Class 1 cars. But Silverstone is unlikely to be one of those circuits because it's so quick, so fast. On the way then into Vale and Club Corner and onto the international pit straight here on board with Mike Millard, homing in on the race leader. There is the Ferrari of Calum Lockie in 3rd place. Manuel Centrano is driving the Nilgarda Motorsport Mosler, and he's running in 4th position. He's lost a place or 2, but he's hanging on to that lead group. Calum Lockie then trying to hang on to the top two, but really his fight is not with them. He just wants to win his class here and pick up more points towards the championship. There's Peter Bedemar in the track-focused Ferrari making his way around the circuit as we head for a break. Welcome back to Silverstone for round 12 of the Britcar Endurance Championship, with the Sports and Touring Car Championship also involved in this second race of the weekend. You're on board with the second place car, Mike Millard from fourth on the grid, straight up into second place on the run through the first corner at Corse. And now he's beginning to close in on Pete Story, the race leader in the Wolf. There's the third place car, Calum Lockie, who's at the head of the championship. Manuel Cintrana, though, he's really driving well here, hanging on to him. He's an amateur racer, the 59-year-old from Spain. He's been getting better and better this season. He drove really well, I thought, at Snetterton, and he's doing okay so far at Silverstone. That Ferrari isn't as powerful on paper as the Mosler, but Calum Lockie very much more experienced than Manuel Cintrano. So a good close battle there for third place. And there is the Porsche of Guillaume Gruchet, the white Porsche, has made its way up through the grid, and just behind him, just outside the top six, is number 57, which is Mike Moss, who leads Class 4 for the Sports and Touring Car Championship, as our top two get ever closer here at the end of the straight. I think Mike Millard had to think about it, but Pete Story had just enough in hand there to be able to fend him off. So a really tight battle at the head of the pack, a tight battle for third place as well. And here is a tight battle for second position in the Sports and Touring Car division, and that is a good move from number 50, Amanda Black, as she gets through and moves ahead of James McIntyre in the BMW. Here is number 43, Anna Walewska. Kevin Clark will get into the car later on, one of the Class 3 cars here at Silverstone. They have been class winners this season, but they had some trouble with the car in the first race of the weekend, and it runs wide, because she can't find a gear. It's stuck in third gear by the looks of it, so kind of similar problem, I think, than they had in the first race, and just coasting along at the moment. So dramas for Anna Walewska here. There is the number 68 Seat leading the way in terms of the Sports and Touring Car Championship, the Zest Race Car Engineering car. At the moment, you've got Robert Taylor behind the wheel, and there it's going to go past this now stationary BMW, although Anna fires it back up. So got into second gear, third gear, back down to first gear, and I think it's an electronic problem rather than a gearbox problem. But away she goes again, and back into the race. So a bit of a headache already in the race for them, but got to keep going and see how many points they can get out of this. Meanwhile, you've got the Ginetta now onto the tail of the BMW for the class lead. So Mike Moss coming under attack here from Amanda Black. Amanda, who has taken 2 race wins this year in the category alongside her teammate Ian Anderson, one at Silverstone and one at Snetterton. Here's the battle for the overall lead of the race, still pretty close between the top two, but Pete Story hanging on to it at the moment. There's number 77, Nick Jarvis, in the Track Talk car, the team who got a second place finish here at Silverstone earlier in the year. And that is Peter Cunningham, who's making his way back up the order now after a spin, a problem early on in the race. This is how he got past the number 68 Zest Race Car Engineering machine, and a tidy move on the way into Copse Corner. That was 1 lap ago, and he's already pulled right away from that car, and he's now onto the tail of the next Seat, which is number 77, Nick Jarvis, who's only done a couple of races this year with Track Talk. The car's been out all year, but with lots of different drivers on board. Nick did the race at Snetterton. Jono Coleman to get into the car for his debut later on. There is Peter Bedemar, who's a newcomer to racing, no doubt enjoying just the feeling, the sensation of driving this wonderful Ferrari around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Now, the battle of the Seats continues here, and is Peter going to pick up another place? It looks like he's got the better run here, and through he will go surely on the way into Copse Corner, and Peter Cunningham makes up another place. So that's now the lead Seat in the Sports and Touring Car Championship. Peter and Mark Cunningham having taken a couple of wins in the category this year and still in contention for the championship title. Still, we've got the top two absolutely running together here in that category. Mike Mosso runs a little bit wide, and Amanda Black's got the Ginetta alongside. She's got her foot in the door there. Here's Manuel Cintrano running in 4th place still in the Mosler. Looks a bit different than he did a few rounds ago. Had that big shunt at Alton Park at the first corner when Manuel was on board. Nothing to do with him, but he was just a victim of a big crash at the first turn. The team have modified the car since then. There's Guillaume Gruchet, who's running 2nd in Class 2. Few places behind Calum Lockie, and indeed the Ginetta did get through. So Amanda Black into the lead of the category now for the Sports and Touring Car Championship. The pair looking for their 3rd win of the season and already pulling away from Mike Moss and Tom Howard. into the first round of pit stops, and a change of drivers here for Neil Gardner Motorsport. So Javier Murcia is about to get in to the number 2 car, see if he can get it up onto the podium. And James Fletcher about to sprint into the wall. A very, very strong first stint this from Pete's story. Peter did the second stint of race 1 and got that surprise victory when Martin Short's Mosler just stopped out of the last corner. Now these two Seats are tied together again. I think that's because one's been into the pits and one hasn't. There's also been a driver change for Lifetime Racing, and down in the pits, Rachel has managed to catch up with Amanda Black, who is leading the class.
I thoroughly enjoyed my stint because it's the first time I've done the first stint. So it was my first rolling start, first time I've actually been in the GT cars with all the cars next to me.
Were you nervous?
Really nervous. So the actual start was fine, quite comfortable. Got stuck behind sort of the BMWs, very calm, managed to get through them, started getting a 6-second lead, and then I spun. So yeah, so then spent the next couple of minutes trying to claw that back. But it's a bit difficult, so I wasn't here testing on Friday, so I've not actually driven this car. This is race driver excuse number 3, by the way. I haven't actually driven this car around on the full circuit of Silverstone, so it's been a bit of a baptism of fire, to be honest.
So a really close 3-way battle that we've got for the Sports and Touring Car Championship between the Mike Moss Motorsport BMW, James McIntyre, you're in the Green Reaper BMW there, and the Lifetime Racing Ginetta with Ian Anderson now aboard. Meanwhile, in Class 3, it's Steve Fressel and Zoe Wenham up to 5th place overall and leading their category.
Managed to get a really clean start, pull away from all the Class 4 cars and the other Class 3 car. Handed over to Steve. Seems like a fairly easy race so far.
There's James McIntyre, still just ahead of Ian Anderson. And the pair of them trying to catch up with Tom Howard, who is now in the Mike Moss Motorsport BMW. Looks like it's going to be a move for the Ginetta there on the run at the end of the straight. There is Steve Fressel now in the Class 3 Ginetta, continuing to lead his category. There is Javier Murcia up to 3rd place now, ahead of Calum Lockie, so the Ferrari down to 4th place and trying to lap Tom Howard, who leads his class for Mike Moss Motorsport in the BMW.
The Ginetta gave us a very good run for her money at the start, managed to hold it at bay for a bit, and then she got by. And then we had the Grim Reaper driving us down as well, but managed to hold position, managed to come in the pits and hand the car over in first to Tom.
You're doing fantastic, 4th overall at the moment.
Yeah, I'm hoping that in the next few laps he can reel in, and hopefully we maybe get a podium overall. 3rd on the podium would be a fantastic result.
Back out on circuit then, the race going in towards its final phase. We ride on board with Kevin Clark, who is now in the Intersport BMW, and it looks like he's having a similar drama than Anna Walewska suffered earlier on in the race. So they got a class victory at Snetterton, but they've had a really frustrating weekend here at Silverstone, and they're not going to pick up too many points. They are running very high up in the overall championship as well, so this is going to be a real blow to their overall title hopes. The car looks like it's about to stop out on track. Going well though is Mike Millard here. He's had so many issues this year, but the car has always been quick. Mike has always been a very quick driver, and can he get himself a podium finish here? Maybe he's still got time to hunt down the Wolf, but that doesn't sound too good as he comes onto the national pit straight, and he slows down towards Copse Corner. The Rapier looks like it's developed another problem here, and it's coasting. He's lost his power and he pulls off the circuit on the exit to Copse Corner.
The engine's gone. We've had a lot of things since the accident at Alton Park, and at Snetterton we didn't finish the car until the start of the race, and it was missing then, and we found out there was all in an alternator and things, so we had to replace that, and we had to replace lots of things on the car. But the one thing we haven't replaced is the internals in the engine, and it looks like it must have put the crank out of balance. It's been sluggish all weekend, the car's been struggling, and then suddenly it's just let go. It's going to be the whole winter now. We're finished for the year. Yeah, definitely.
On board with our race leader, James Fletcher. Of course, with Millard now out, he's got quite a big gap back to the Mosler of Manuel Centrano. It's ended a bit rough as he went down through the gears there, and he's sliding wide, and James Fletcher has gone wide off the circuit. I think he's got a problem. I don't think it's a driver error. I think he's got some sort of problem with the car. So the top two both suffering dramas within a few minutes of each other. And could it therefore mean that Javier Murcia, who was a mile behind them, is actually going to pick up the race lead here? It could well mean that this man's going to pick up 2nd place overall, Calum Lockie. Either way, it looks like he's going to win his category once again as the Class 2 leader in the FF Corse Ferrari. And more good points for him. It's a left rear puncture, so the tyre has completely come away on the wharf. What a shame. They inherited a win, really, in race 1. This time, it's the other way around. They're going to lose a win because of bad luck. So up to 3rd place will come Guillaume Gruchet. Now, he's never had an overall podium finish, so I'll be absolutely delighted with this. And going fantastically well in 4th place, that's Tom Howard, who of course leads the Sports and Touring Car Championship. So 4th place overall. And 5th place, driving really well here, is Steve Fressel after the early groundwork done by his teammate Zoe Wenham. They continue to lead Class 3. So it's going to be a surprise victory. This time it's going to be in favour of a Mosler. Manuel Cintrano with a really good opening stint, but it's Javier Morcillo that's going to take the checkered flag. He comes out of the last turn, out through Woodcut Corner, and takes the checkered flag here. It's another win. It keeps their title hopes alive with just one more event to come this season. So confirmation of the results here at Silverstone. Cintrano and Morcillo win by just over a minute from Calum, Lockie, Guillaume Gruchet 3rd, Moss and Howard winning their category in 4th. Mason and Lockie lead the championship still from Morcillo and Cintrano. Guillaume Gruchet retains 3rd place. And in the Sports and Touring Car Championship, it is mightily close between the top 4 teams. So not for the first time this year, Javier Morcillo makes his way onto the top step of the podium, joined by his very happy teammate, Manuel Cintrano.
Manuel, we haven't had a chance to speak to you before. How did you find it out there?
No, bien, muy bien. La verdad es que es una pena que haya tan pocos coches, pero ha sido divertida, al menos ha sido divertida. Sí.
He had a lot of fun. It's the only pity is lack of numbers in cars, but he had a great time and he just loved it out there.
What's it like racing and working with Javier?
¿Qué tal es correr y trabajar conmigo?
Fantastic. It's really fantastic. He's a great friend and a great driver coach. It's perfect for me.
Well, Class 3 has been very competitive this year. There's no doubt about the team of the weekend in the category here at Silverstone, Zoe Wenham and Steve Fressel with another win.
Had a good day today, haven't we? Yeah, very good day.
When you started today, did you guys expect this kind of level of success in a day?
Yes. We did. We're pleased with this. We're pleased with 2 wins. We worked hard for it and we've got them.
Well, it's 2 wins and a 2nd now in the last 3 races for Mike Moss and Tom Howard, victors in the Sports and Touring Car category.
We've always had the pace every meeting, but we've just had so much bad luck. It's nothing to do with the team or drivers, it's just the car. But the car is a really high-spec car. It's just absolutely unfortunate what happens to it, but hopefully we're in for the championship win this year, so fingers crossed.
And another Class 2 victory for Calum Lockie, the overall points leader.
It's just brilliant to have yet another win. That's my 101st now.
We're not counting.
And, you know, I have to say a great big thank you to David for putting me in the car and also for FF Corse for really, we had a bit of a fraught day, but through we came and the car performed absolutely faultlessly in the 2nd race. So, great.
Well, that's the end of our coverage from Silverstone. Next, we head to Donington Park for the final race of the year, the climax of the season, and it's going to be a good one. We'll see you then.